Hey there, Ruthhaven Grounds family. Let me tell you about the moment I realized I'd been throwing money away on compost activators. I was standing in the garden center staring at a $15 bottle of premium compost accelerator. When it hit me, I had something sitting in my kitchen that works just as well, if not better, and you probably have it too. Today I'm going to share a secret that seasoned composters have known for generations, but somehow got lost in the shuffle of fancy products and marketing hype. We're talking about a simple kitchen staple that'll turn your compost pile into a thriving ecosystem of decomposition without spending a dime on commercial activators. So, what's this magical ingredient? It's coffee grounds. Yes, those leftover grounds from your morning brew that most people just toss in the trash are actually one of the best compost activators you can find. But before you think this is too simple to be true, let me explain why coffee grounds are absolute gold for your compost pile. Coffee grounds are rich in nitrogen, with a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio of about 20:1. This makes them a fantastic green material that microorganisms absolutely love. When you add coffee grounds to your compost, you're essentially feeding the beneficial bacteria that break down organic matter. These microscopic workers need nitrogen to multiply and do their job efficiently, and coffee grounds deliver that nitrogen in a form that's readily available. What makes coffee grounds even more impressive is their texture. Unlike some nitrogen-rich materials that can become slimy or compacted, coffee grounds maintain a slightly grainy consistency that helps with aeration. This means they're feeding your microbes while simultaneously keeping your pile from turning into an anaerobic, smelly mess. It's a two-for-one benefit that commercial activators simply can't match. Before we dive deeper into using coffee grounds, let's talk about what compost activators are supposed to do. This knowledge will help you understand why that kitchen ingredient works so brilliantly. Commercial compost activators are designed to introduce beneficial microorganisms and provide nitrogen to jumpstart the decomposition process. They're essentially trying to create the perfect conditions for bacteria, fungi, and other decomposers to thrive. The problem is that most of these products are expensive, and many contain ingredients you can easily provide yourself. The truth is, your compost pile doesn't need fancy additives if you understand the basics of what makes decomposition happen. You need the right balance of carbon and nitrogen, adequate moisture, proper aeration, and beneficial microorganisms. Coffee grounds address multiple aspects of this equation naturally and effectively. Now, let's get practical. Using coffee grounds in your compost isn't just about dumping them in and hoping for the best. There's a method to maximize their effectiveness, and I've learned these techniques through years of trial and error so you don't have to. First, start collecting your coffee grounds consistently. I keep a small container next to my coffee maker, and every morning after brewing, those grounds go straight in. If you don't drink enough coffee to generate substantial amounts, ask your local coffee shop. Most are happy to give away their used grounds for free. I've built relationships with 2 cafes near me, and they save me buckets of grounds that would otherwise go to the landfill. When adding coffee grounds to your compost, think about layering. I like to sprinkle a thin layer of coffee grounds whenever I add a substantial amount of brown material like dried leaves, shredded paper, or cardboard. This creates alternating layers that balance carbon and nitrogen while the grounds work their magic on the decomposition process. A good rule of thumb is to keep coffee grounds to about 20% of your total compost volume. More than that, and you might throw off your carbon-to-nitrogen balance. One technique I've found particularly effective is creating what I call a coffee ground boost. When my compost pile seems to be slowing down or I've just added a lot of tough woody material, I'll add a more concentrated layer of coffee grounds mixed with some finished compost. This combination introduces both nitrogen and an extra dose of beneficial microorganisms that really get things cooking. Here's where things get really interesting. Coffee grounds aren't just providing nitrogen, they're creating an environment that microorganisms find, well, irresistible. The slightly acidic nature of coffee grounds initially might concern some gardeners, but here's the thing. As they decompose, that acidity neutralizes, and the final compost has a balanced pH that's perfect for most plants. Coffee grounds also contain trace minerals like magnesium, potassium, and phosphorus. While these aren't present in huge quantities, they add nutritional diversity to your finished compost that commercial activators simply don't provide. You're not just speeding up decomposition, you're enriching the end product. Another fascinating aspect is that coffee grounds contain compounds that can help suppress certain soil-borne diseases. research has shown that coffee grounds can inhibit some fungal pathogens, meaning your compost isn't just feeding your plants but potentially protecting them too. Try getting that benefit from a bottle of commercial activator. While coffee grounds are the star of this show, I want to share how I've built a complete composting system that rarely needs any purchased inputs. Understanding this bigger picture will help you maximize the effectiveness of your coffee ground activator. I always keep a balance of materials on hand. My brown materials include shredded cardboard, dried leaves I collect in fall, and newspaper. For greens, besides coffee grounds, I use kitchen scraps, grass clippings in moderation, and garden trimmings. The coffee grounds act as the catalyst that brings everything together. Moisture management is crucial, and this is where many composters struggle. Your pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, moist but not soaking wet. Coffee grounds actually help with moisture retention without making things soggy, unlike some materials that either repel water or turn into mush. I check my pile's moisture weekly, especially during hot summer months, and adjust as needed. Temperature is another indicator of how well your activator is working. After adding a good dose of coffee grounds to a pile that has the right carbon-to-nitrogen ratio and moisture level, you should notice the internal temperature rising within a few days. I've seen temperatures reach between 130 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect for killing weed seeds and breaking down materials quickly. Through my years of composting and connecting with the Ruth Haven Grounds community, I've noticed several common mistakes people make when using coffee grounds. Let me save you some frustration by highlighting what not to do. The biggest mistake is adding too many coffee grounds at once, without enough brown material to balance them out. I learned this the hard way when I got overly enthusiastic after collecting 5 gallons of grounds from a local cafe. I dumped them all in my pile at once, and within a week, I had a smelly, slimy mess. The excess nitrogen with insufficient carbon created anaerobic conditions. Now I know better. Always balance those grounds with plenty of browns. Another error is expecting instant results. Even with the best activator, composting takes time. Coffee grounds will speed up the process compared to no activator, but you're still looking at several weeks to months for finished compost, depending on conditions. Patience is part of the composting journey. Some gardeners also make the mistake of not mixing their coffee grounds into the pile properly. Just sprinkling them on top doesn't distribute their benefits throughout your compost. I use a pitchfork to turn and mix whenever I add materials, ensuring those grounds get incorporated where they'll do the most good. How do you know if your coffee ground activator is working? I've developed a few benchmarks over the years that help me gauge the health and progress of my compost pile. First, check the temperature. A well-activated pile should heat up noticeably within 3 to 5 days of adding coffee grounds, along with a good mix of materials. If you don't have a compost thermometer yet, you can stick your hand into the center of the pile. It should feel warm to hot. Just don't leave it in there long if it's really cooking. The smell test is another reliable indicator. Healthy, active compost should smell earthy and pleasant, maybe slightly sweet. If you're getting ammonia smells, you have too much nitrogen and need more browns. If it smells rotten or like sulfur, you likely have anaerobic conditions and need to turn your pile for better aeration. Finally, observe the rate of decomposition. With coffee grounds as your activator, materials that might normally take 3 to 4 months to break down should be ready in 6 to 8 weeks under good conditions. You'll notice that even tougher materials like small twigs and vegetable stalks break down much faster. I hope this deep dive into using coffee grounds as a compost activator has opened your eyes to the possibilities sitting right in your kitchen. We don't need to spend money on products that promise the world when nature has already provided everything we need. This is what Ruth Haven Grounds is all about, finding smart, sustainable, cost-effective solutions that make gardening accessible and enjoyable for everyone. If you found this information valuable, do me a favor and subscribe to the Ruth Haven Grounds channel. Share this article with your fellow gardeners who are still buying those expensive activators. Let's build a community of resourceful, knowledgeable gardeners who work with nature instead of against their wallets. Drop a comment and let me know your composting experiences. I read every single one and love hearing your stories. Happy composting, friends, and remember, your best gardening tools might just be hiding in your kitchen.